This is episode number 150 of the Guns Magazine podcast. Hi there, and welcome to the Guns Magazine podcast, one of the shooting world's biggest gun talk programs. I'm your host and the editor of Guns Magazine, Brent T. Thanks for joining us as we talk to the interesting folks who make up the world of shooting, hunting, law enforcement, and the firearms industry. First, before we get started, let's have a quick chat about our sponsor, 1791 Gunleather. Centuries ago, the original patriots of this country fought and died for the promises they protected in the Constitution. Chief among those promises was the right to bear arms. Now, generations later, 1791 Gunleather now protects that right and our firearms. Makers of the 2020 Holster of the Year, every 1791 holster is a mastery of craft and function, customizable to any firearm you require. 1791 Gunleather provides quality and service in the way only an American company can. Please visit 1791gunleather.com for more information. It's the cheapest pistol you can buy, it's fairly well made, and some people think it's really useful. We're talking about the Altor pistol, a single-shot modern design with a suggested retail price of only $129. Today, I talked to Roy Huntington about this gun, and we try to answer the question of, is it worthwhile or worth less? Now here's Roy Huntington as we talk about the Altor pistol. Well, good morning, Roy.
Good morning, sir.
Well, today we're going to talk about the cheapest pistol, literally, you can buy. The MSRP on this thing's $129, and street price about $100. It is the Altor pistol, and it is a strange cat. And I have handled quite a few of them. They've passed through my mitts here. I've got to admit, I've not fired one. Roy has done some firing with them and has some range experience. So we're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly about this crazy pistol, the Altor. So Roy, when you first heard about this thing or first got it in your mitts, what were your general impressions of a single shot, slam fire, $100 pistol?
When I was done going, what the hell? Yeah. Was it Jed Clampett used to say, what in tarnation?
Yes.
But since you say a gun is one letter away from fun.
Right.
I thought, okay, well, let's have an open mind here. Everything, Lord knows, doesn't have to be practical or even have to have a use. I have a 91 Bentley, which is the most stupid automobile to own in the world, period.
Yeah. They're
expensive. They break all the time. They're everything, right?
Yeah.
But they're fun and they're beautiful. And I sit in it and I smile, And so is Altor the Bentley of pistols in some distorted way of looking, and I think it may be,
Wow.
I'm not sure, but yeah.
Well, you've talked to the inventor. These guns, they're well made. For what they are. I didn't see any, it's not that they're cutting corners on the machining or any of that kind of stuff. It's a polymer frame with metal insert and a steel barrel. It all looks pretty well done. Very simple mechanism, the slam fire, which that's probably the weirdest thing about this, is you pull the trigger to the rear and then you have to release it so that the spring goes forward and makes the primer go off. But really overall, they're decently made. And like I said, you can get them for $100 and you have a 9mm. But you've talked to the inventor, the owner of the company. He's not necessarily a gun guy. He's an engineer by trade, right?
Yeah. From what I recall, he's a very pleasant man and a good sense of humor. And he's does inventions. He's a bit like Thomas Edison. Thomas Edison would identify a need in the market and then invent a product for it. And he had identified what he felt was a need for this entry level, very basic, gun, and then designed around that concept, which brought out something that we've never really seen before. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like years ago, when we were kids, we would make, I guess we zip guns. Is what you would call it, right?
Did we?
Yeah. Oh no, you're allowed to. You can make a gun if you want to, right? And,
as long as your parents didn't find out.
Yeah, and we used to make these little guns shoot 22 shot cartridges in, and so they were. You just pulled a stud back and you release it off your thumb, and it would spring forward and shoot the gun. And so this is sort of like a really sophisticated that concept. So it's as you say, when I first got this one, I didn't realize that it was a release trigger. And so I was pulling the trigger expecting a sear to trip.
Nothing's happening.
And nothing was happening. And I thought, oh, darn, I got the only bad one they made. Right. And so then finally I, got my brain around the three moving parts that are in it. And I realized, no, you let it slip off your finger. That sound is the trigger actually slipping off the end of my finger and then going forward. So if people don't know, there's a little lever underneath the barrel, and then you twist the barrel, you rotate the barrel, and then you place a cartridge in what's essentially the receiver of the gun. There's a place there. You know what it looks like? It looks like if you reload, there's a cartridge holder in the bottom of the reloading press.
Right. The shell holder.
You put the shell holder. Right. It looks like there's a shell holder.
Right.
And that's the breech face. And so you slip it in there, and then you put the barrel on and twist it. And then there's a safety that you can turn the barrel so it's safe. And then there's also a cross bolt safety down by the NADA trigger. So it's really safe. It's got little molded in sights on it, real basic, just channel sights kind of. And the barrel is rifled, and they're in 9mm or 380, at least the last time I looked. And as you say, they're really well made. I mean, they're, the machining is really nice and everything fits well. And I've had maybe half a dozen of them come through my hands. They've all been just fine. And we made a video, which if I remember, I'll send you the link so we can post it with this. Yeah. I did an Altor video on a while ago. And I mean, you can actually hit a can at 10 yards.
Yeah.
I just went, but now comes the question.
The big question.
This is what blew up the comments on that video. And the comments were from both extremes, from this is the most stupid, ridiculous thing I ever saw in my life. It's a waste of money and a waste of time. And all you're doing is pandering to the anti-gun people. Okay. To the other end of the extreme, which was, gosh, what a great option for someone who doesn't have a lot of money and they just need something, to protect their family. Or if you're a backpacker and you want some protection, load it with a shot cartridge, 9mm shot cartridge. People were saying, oh, a perfect gun for, my truck or my tackle box. And, and then other people were saying, well, if you're going to do this, why not just get a 5-shot revolver? Well, because this is $100.
Yeah.
Well,
and where I'm thinking of it is, like you said, I saw a comment where a guy was talking about for kayaking. And I've had I think maybe I didn't tell the story. I was kayaking in Florida several years ago. It was the first year I had my big green kayak. And I'm out it was early in the morning. The mist is rising off the water. I'm fishing for trout and redfish. It was glorious. And I was back in the reeds, and I got this feeling that you get. And I look over, and there's an alligator, and he's within paddle distance from me. And I suddenly realized my boat is 13 feet, and he was 3/4 long as my boat. And so I'm thinking, okay, I'm 4 feet from a 7 to 8 foot alligator. This is disconcerting, but I'm a experienced outdoor guy. I thought I'll just get my pistol in case. And then I realized I left my pistol in the truck because it's salt water, and I don't want to carry my pistol in salt water as much as I can. Even a polymer gun's got a lot of metal parts to it. So I thought, okay, again, stay calm, be cool. And I thought he was going to swim by, and then he got kind of even with the front of my kayak, and he did that pivot thing that they do without any movement at all, but just he pivoted 90 degrees, and he's looking at me, and I can see the pupil of his eyes looking at me. And I stopped and thought, I'm green. He's green. I either he's looking at me.
Oh, baby.
Yeah. Either he's looking for love or he's looking for a fight with a rival. And in either case, I didn't want to be there. And, it's a kayak, so I'm only sitting 2 inches above the water anyway. So it was funny. We kind of had this standoff for seemed like an hour, but it was probably, 30 seconds to a minute tops. Yeah. And so he finally did his pivot and swam on up the end of the finger towards shore. I got out of there backstroking as fast as I could, and I literally paddled as hard as I could out to the middle of the bay. And that was the day I learned, they'll tell you, alligators won't go in salt water. They're liars. I'm here to tell you. That was straight salt water, and he was out there doing whatever Mr. Gator was doing. But that long story was, my first thought was, at least put my hand on my pistol, and then I realized I don't have a pistol. So something like this, maybe to put in your tackle box, stick in your kayak, when you're boating, especially in saltwater, maybe that's an option. So
what a great idea, because we kayak here.
Yeah.
And, I usually take a Ruger LCP, with me, but it's like, pain in the neck, and it is still a good enough gun that I don't want to sink my kayak and sink my kind of stuff. But what a great idea. I'm just going to use my Altor pistol.
Yeah.
And I think load it with a 9mm shot cartridge. We have water moccasins, and water moccasins are actually really assholes.
They are.
And
they are.
I mean, if I was amazed the first time I was in the Verdigris River in Oklahoma, we were on a squirrel hunt years ago with Smith and Wesson, and the good old boys there were saying, well, we'll take these John boats out here and we'll buzz down the river. Now keep your eyes open for water moccasins. And I thought, well, okay, it's a snake, big deal. I grew up with rattlesnakes. Right. Oh no, they're on swimming on the river, and they see you and they come over and try to get in the boat and kill you. And all these old boys used to have RG-38s in the front zip pocket of their overalls, loaded with CCI, and they'd be talking to you going like, well, we'll come up here around the bend, and then in a water moccasin come up, they just pull it out, shoot it over the side, put it back in their pocket. I thought that was a lesson, man.
Yeah. I had a situation last time we were in Florida. There was a big, thick water moccasin. It was laying right on the fog line on the right side of the road. So we were in a pretty rural area. So I pulled over there facing the wrong way, and I was trying to get good video of it with my cell phone. That thing is striking at the car. I'm like, dude, come on. I realize you're a mean, reptile, but this is a 3,500 pound truck made of steel, and he's hitting. And I'm like, okay. Water moccasin, kill on sight. I realize they're part of the ecosystem and blah, 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 but no, moccasins kill on sight. So the Altor with shot cartridges, that's an option.
They should have called it the water moccasin. No, it's brilliant. That is such a perfect reason for a gun like this. It's like, well, it's a gun that if you end up losing it, you're not going to go, oh man. Yeah. It's just like, hey, where's my Altor pistol? I must have lost it. Oh, well.
Well, again, engaging in water sports, even fishing. I mean, occasionally you go over the side, or if you're, I wade a lot, and you occasionally go down on slick rocks, and definitely kayak, canoeing, that kind of stuff. So yeah, I would much rather send one of those to Davy Jones' locker than even, like you said, like an LCP or something like that. So that aside, is it something to carry by your spouse, to carry yourself as a self-defense piece?
No, I don't think at any level should you think about that at all. I mean, if it's the only thing you have, it's like if you're stuck in your shop and a bad guy's coming in and all you have is the nail gun, then I would recommend you pick up a sledgehammer. Yeah. Actually, this is very much, I was thinking about while you were talking, this is very much like, I have one of those, it's not pneumatic, it's the nail guns that you put a little 22 blank into and hit it. I can't remember what they're called now. I have one of those, and I used it to secure my workbench to the concrete block wall. And I was amazed that it drove that 2-inch spike right into the concrete.
With no problem.
No, and it's a real rudimentary piece of steel that you hit with a hammer, and it slam fires the cartridge and drives the nail in the thing. This is a lot like that. This is the nail gun of firearms. And And so basically, I think if you look at it as a utility tool,
yeah.
I mean, I think keeping this on your tractor is probably one of the most appropriate uses for it.
Yeah.
Because if you load it with a 9mm, you can put down the bowl that you need to put down if it's something, or a shot cartridge, you can shoot the rat that's in the pole barn.
Yep.
You know, and it's just, you'd never need to clean it. You'd never need to lubricate it. You'd never need to anything it. You know, that may be though. I think we're discovering something about this gun that I had not thought of before, which is the sheer utility. Because doing what you and I do, we tend to think in the defensive mode.
Right.
Well, can you hunt with this? Can you defend it with it? You know, and both of those are like, oh, I don't think so.
Yeah. You know, I just thought of another use, like your place, you've got sheds and barns. You know, that'd be a fine gun to stick in an old holster nailed to the inside of the door of the barn, you know, just so you're always going to carry a gun, but sometimes you end up, I will break the gun writer code of, yes, people actually end up unarmed, you know, because a real gun writer said, no, I even carry in the shower. Yourself. Yeah.
That's why I started carrying LCP2 initially. And now I have an LCP Max, and it is always in my pocket, in a pocket holster. When I get up in the morning and I put my shorts on, the gun is there. And when I go to bed at night and take them off, the gun is, you know, and it's because of just what you say. It's like you're walking up to the chicken coop and there's the fox. Yeah. You know, or the who's that in my driveway? Yeah. You know, who's that in my driveway? I used to actually keep an old rusty H&R single barrel 12 gauge. Remember the ones that would just change your channel if you shot them? You know, they kick so damn hard. Yeah.
My first turkey gun.
Yeah. Oh gosh, they were amazing. But I had some beater I picked up at a garage sale for $20 or something, and I cut the barrel off to a legal short, you know, length and stuff. And I kept 2 or 3 rounds of birdshot taped with that, you know, that painter's tape that you can tear real easy to the buttstock. And I kept that.
Never thought of that.
In my pole barn, in a plastic little, you know, tool shed thing. Yeah. And damn if I didn't use it once or twice, you know? Like you just go, wait, I'll grab that old shotgun. That'll take care of this. So,
well, that's why, you know, like around, I mean, I know your house is the same way. We stage guns all over the place when the kids aren't coming over. And it's just for like, okay, I'm sitting here at my desk doing this interview with you. I don't physically have a pistol on me. I've got 2 literally within arm span. But if I would get up and go to the bathroom, you know, I'm going 10 feet and I don't have a pistol. So real world, real people end up without a gun occasionally. So if you want to post one someplace where you're not worried about it getting cruddy, dirty and dusty and all that stuff, this might be, you know, one option.
I'm going to make a double shoulder holster for Scout the Wonder Dog. I'm going to have Scout carry a pair of these for me.
Gunboy the Weatherby.
Yeah. Well, actually, do you remember the other day we were recording the Cranks or something, and Nick, our producer, we could see him on one of the video windows, and all of a sudden he looked off camera. Then he got really worried for a second.
Yeah, that was crazy.
He said, "I'll be right back." And he disappeared, and he was gone for 4 or 5 minutes, and he came back. His eyes were a little bit wide, and he said, holy cow, the cops just chased some guy into our apartment complex, and they just tased him all basically on our front door. Yeah. And we'll let that be a lesson of what we're talking about. You know, that's why, yes, you have to secure your guns. Yes, you have to. Yeah. If your kid's coming over, don't be stupid. Right. But I don't know of any time when I've ever needed a gun where I had time to go to my safe and undo the padlock and get it out and load it and then go do what I needed to do, you know? And so this, I mean, I'll tell you, we're accidentally being brilliant because we're coming up with some great ideas for this little pistol. Yeah, I know. That'd be too. I think that, you know, we need to just disarm the opponents right now. We agree completely that you should not use this gun for self-defense. Yep. Unless it's the only thing you have, but you shouldn't hopefully only have this on purpose. Yeah. You know, I mean, but if this happens to be there and you need to defend yourself, just like you'd pick up a 2x4, right? You know, pick up your Altor pistol and do it. So
absolutely. And, you know, if we've talked about this a lot. Not everybody is in a position where you can spend $600 on a good quality defensive firearm, but this is the far other extreme of it. Save your lunch money. You know, it's not better to spend the $100 today because that's just putting you that much farther behind the financial curve of saving, say, the $300, because we've talked about this a lot too. Nowadays, even most of the low-end defensive pistols from the major manufacturers are pretty good. So even if you can't afford a new one, you can probably find a used one at a reasonable price point that normal folks can afford. So yeah, it's interesting. And I still want one for the, curiosity value. And like we just talked about, there's some place, maybe an extra gun in my garage, tacked up on the wall kind of thing, but it is not your primary choice of a self-defense weapon.
No, there's another thing that this gun does really well, and that is it is really safe. Because you can rotate this barrel and put it on safe, and it's impossible to go off.
Yeah.
It physically can't go off. And then it also has the crossbolt safety behind the trigger. And so this is, I like it even more for the idea of the kayak gun. So you throw this in that little glove compartment area that you probably have on your kayak.
Yep.
And who cares if it fills up with water? I don't care.
Exactly.
Right? And, but it's not going to go off no matter what, unless you purposefully want it to.
Yeah.
This is really, I'm really changing my opinion on this. I mean, I didn't ever once say, well, this is stupid, we shouldn't have these.
Right.
But I always thought I'm kind of really struggling with trying to figure out a use for this, but I think we've just come up with a half a dozen really good uses.
Well, you hit one that, I grew up in a farming community. I was not a farmer, but pretty much all my friends were. And especially, the guys that had horses and cows and those kind of things. Occasionally you have to put them down, or if you're going to say butcher a cow or sheep or whatever, you have to put them down. It would work really good for that and be very safe. So another use we've come up with.
Yeah, use a 9mm ball.
Mm-hmm.
A 124 full metal jacket would penetrate 2 feet into some, something you need to shoot at.
Yep.
I didn't shoot this beyond about, I think I shot it about 10 yards. I can't remember for sure. And I mean, it was surprisingly accurate. You'll see if you watch the video down below. But I'm going to take this back outside, and you and I were banging away at that 80-yard torso gong that I have here. And I'm actually, I'll bet you we can, wow. I mean, because it seems you had mentioned some YouTubers were saying that they were getting some keyholing, or the NRA was getting some keyholing. We were talking about it I'm not sure what the rifling rate is. It looks pretty straight in the bore. So I'm betting that you would want to shoot lighter bullets in this gun.
Yeah. Good point.
To spin them. Yeah. I don't think it's fast enough to stabilize really heavy bullets like 147 grains. So
one other thing that people talked about was recoil, especially with the little bit heavier bullets, 124 and above, that since there's no slide and it's actually a pretty lightweight, I believe it's 10 ounces. Guys like us who have shot a lot, hopefully it doesn't matter, but to folks that are more recoil sensitive, apparently it was a little snappy for some of them. Did you happen to notice that?
I really didn't notice it, because I will say the grip is pretty fat.
Yeah.
I mean, you really can get a whole hand around it and a good grip. The only thing I remember is there's a little plastic, sort of like the bottom part of a trigger guard that doesn't go all the way around. So it's a little nub.
Yeah.
And that tended to bite me a little bit, under recoil, but I really didn't think, oh gosh, that kicked hard, not at all. So plus if you're shooting at a water moccasin that wanted to ride in your kayak,
bring it on.
That's right. Bang.
Wow.
Of course you do just have one shot. So,
Yeah. Well, I mean, so we've come up with legitimate uses for this thing. Again, I can't emphasize enough, this is not the answer for a defensive pistol, but in certain circumstances where you want a gun and it might be a little, challenging or physically dangerous to the gun itself, again, kayaking out on the water or keeping on your tractor, this thing actually might serve a pretty good purpose beyond just being interesting.
I think you're right. And I may have to do a follow-up video, doing a couple of experiments. I think I shot a shot cartridge through it in the video, but I don't remember.
I'd like to see that, the water moccasin test.
If we could. Oh, you know what? And actually, I'm going to make a note. I should do another video, because what I'll do is I'll go down to the pond and I'll put a little stick on the water.
Yeah.
And then we can shoot it and I'll pretend it's a water moccasin and do some things like that. I think one of the best uses of this pistol, though, across the board, a brilliant idea. And that is to get a half a dozen of them. And then they sell a little simple holster, and then get yourself like a bandolier. And then carry 6 of these, like at an angle across your chest, like a pirate.
I was going to say, get a pirate pistols. Ship.
Yep. And if you're one of those millennials with a beard and a, what do you call those things? A man bun on the top. And you wore a whole, it's more than a brace. I don't know what 6 would be.
Yeah.
A half a dozen. I don't, there's got to be some cool name for it. You would be styling.
You would be. Well, and I said, you got to have the big plume tri-corner hat and all that. So, And was it Blackbeard used to set off firecrackers in his beard? So,
don't give them any ideas.
I'm sure there's a YouTuber out there either has done it or will do it soon.
Brent didn't really say that.
No, not at all.
He didn't mean that. So, well, there we go. So Altor pistol, $100. I mean, I just buy them while you can. Lord knows, I'm sure either they'll get tired of making them, and he'll go on to his next, invention. Yeah. So it'll probably be like a carbon fiber aircopter or something. You never know.
Well, let us know. Reach out to me at editor@gunsmagazine.com, or if you're watching on YouTube, leave us a comment down below. Tell us what you think. Is this the greatest thing since sliced bread, or the invention of the devil himself? So, Roy, thanks for joining me, and I think we've had a good discussion, and maybe you've even seen the light a little bit.
Always fun, Brent.
It's always fun yakking with Roy, and I think we covered some new ground here regarding the Altor pistol. If you enjoyed this episode, there's a few others you might want to check out, including episode number 111, The Bonnie and Clyde Myth with Daryl Bulkey, episode number 115 on choosing the best 9mm micro pistol, that's with the gun cranks, and finally, episode number 143, You Don't Know Jack About the Weaver Stance. If there's a topic you want to hear, someone you'd like us to interview, or you just want to share your thoughts, please drop me a line at editor@gunsmagazine.com. As always, you can find us on your favorite podcast directory, YouTube, and at gunsmagazine.com. And while you're online, don't forget to check out our great sister publications, American Handgunner Magazine at americanhandgunner.com, americancop.com, and our numerous special editions available for sale on our websites and at amazon.com. That's it for this episode of the Guns Magazine podcast. For the entire staff at FMG Publications, I'm Guns Magazine editor Brent Wheat. Now get out there and get shooting.